Hey everyone, Ruben Lara here, and today I want to show you how powerful combining marker remap with After Effects master properties can be when creating UI and UX animations. So here I have a simple project dashboard UI that features contact cards with avatars, buttons, and some information about each contact. It's a little overkill, but it serves the demo purpose. Now clearly each contact card is identical right now, and we'll be using master properties to change the content of each element. But first I want to point out how we're using marker remap to not change the content but the behavior of each element. So in a way, marker remap is like having master properties but for behaviors, which is a very powerful concept when working with UI. Let's take a look at how this is put together. So here in my master comp, which is called project dashboard, I just have a touch events comp which is corner pinned, over this simple template. So let's go into touch events. And the first layer down, we have a finger comp that is superimposed over my main screen, which is where I have all of the details about orchestrating, all of these different behaviors. But let's just back out real quick to touch events because I just feel like this shows off marker remap at its, its simplest here. So we have a finger comp. I'll just go into that. And all that is a simple tap, a press, and a release. So we have access to these three behaviors whenever we want to using marker remap. We'll come back to the touch events comp here, and we can see that after having animated the finger position to match the timing of where I want it to go, now all I have to do is call the right behavior when I need it. Right? So here I have a tap, a second tap, and then further down we have a third tap. So let's just add one more tap here for our last flip of this card, just to show how easy this is. So we want to tap that, basically right when we initiate that animation. So I'll select my finger comp. We'll come here to our marker remap panel. We want to extract a marker, one of the markers that's in the timeline, right, of our target comp that we want to animate. So these are timeline markers split around the action. So again, I've selected it, and I want to extract one to the current timeline marker. So I'm going to click that. This goes into that comp and shows me all of the available behaviors. So I'm going to click tap. I'm going to say normal and hit extract. And now that calls up that behavior at that moment in that pre-comp's timing. And there we have our tap. So real simple usage of marker remap there. All right, let's go down into the screen to see a little more about what's happening here. So as you can see, I have just some simple information right here at the top that's not doing anything. But I have three main pre-comps that I'm using to do all this behavior. One is the percentage comp, which there's three of them duplicated across the top here. Another one is the avatar comps, and then the other one is the tab comp. Let's look at the simplest one for now. So we'll dive here into the percentage. And again, a very simple setup. All we have is a shape layer with a trim paths on it, and that's just giving us a real simple, percentage from 0 to 100. And this comp has exactly 100 frames, and that gives me 1 frame per number that I can work with. Now here's where the power of marker remap comes into play here. I'm just going to get rid of this finger comp, just keep things simple here, and also the touch events. Okay, so here we are back in our percentage screen. Now I'm going to zoom here into the timeline. Now you'll notice that the percent marker is being called. Again, that word percent is coming from this marker inside of that pre-comp. So it's calling that timeline. Get rid of finger as well. So it's calling that timeline marker right here on the pre-comp. But you'll notice that as it plays, each one of these pre-comps are stopping at a certain point. This one's stopping at 92, this one's at 47, and this one's at 71. And that's because I'm using the mapping feature to only map a specific range of that marker segment. So let's just go ahead and reset these to their default behaviors. I'm going to come here and just set this back to 100. If any of the markers are on 100, it doesn't have any mapping flags because that's just the default range of that marker. And I'm also going to remove the easing flags, so I'll just hit clear. All right, let's take a look at what these are doing. So these are just playing straight up 0 to 100 as we see in the original animation. So let's change this one to stop at, let's see, yeah, 92%, that's fine. So as soon as we do that, that stops at 93, 92.7, just because we're dealing with whole numbers there in the comp, which is fine. we'll do this one and we'll set this to somewhere around 50, and we can always go in here and set these specifically too. So I could just say, you know, 45. And so now each one of these comps is using the split marker range as a timing, but only mapping 45% of that original pre-comp animation. Great for bar charts, graphs, and any kind of infographics in a way that we're using them here. Let's just go ahead and look at one more feature of range mapping, and that is the mode. Right now, these are set to equal. As you can see, it says percent equals 92.7, 55.1, and 45. Now remember that this word percent doesn't have anything to do with the mapping. It just happens to be a percentage animation. The word percent is only corresponding to the name of the timeline marker inside the pre-comp. But the mode that these mappings are on right now are what are called full mode. And we can switch this from full mode to map mode by clicking this button. Now take a look at what these equal signs are doing here. So I'm going to click that, and you'll see they'll change to a greater than sign. So that is mapped mode, and that is full mode. Let's see what the difference are between these two things. Now, if you notice in full mode, the ranges are finishing at the same time, which means that the animation that's going to 93% is actually going faster, and the animation that's only going to 45% is actually traveling slower, because they're all range mapped to this to finish at the same moment. So that's what full mode is. If I go ahead and change this to mapped mode, now we can see that the lines are all traveling at the same speed. 45 is getting to its location first, 55 next, and 93 last. So essentially the animation is all playing at the same speed from start to finish, but it's stopping at 45% of the way within this range. So that's the difference between full and mapped mode. I'm going to go ahead and move these back to full because I like the idea of them finishing at the same moment, but at different percentages. And then I'm just going to add the easing flags on the front and back of these. And now we are back to where we were, eased, time remapped animations with different behaviors. All right, let's take a look at the avatar now. So we'll come in here, and this is a comp that has lots of different behaviors. So there's an in, there's an online, an unavailable, texting, heart active, heart on, and a heart pop. So online basically gives us a ring that goes on, unavailable turns it red, texting does one round of little loops that we can loop, heart active goes on, actually turns the heart on, and then we have a little pop animation there. And just to show you how nested marker remap can behave is that here in our avatar comp, we have different behaviors mapped to the timeline, but it itself is using time remapped markers to animate some of these elements. So for example, here in the likes animation, we have a toggle, on and off, and a pop. And inside of here, this is all based on one simple animation that has a pop and a toggle. But we can see how at this level, even this simple heart animation that only has two behaviors can generate so many. So this toggle has a toggle on, and just by reversing the toggle with the reverse flag, we're able to turn that on and then turn it off. So again, we're able to just nest marker remapped segments in a way that we're using as few keyframes as possible to generate lots of different behaviors. All right, so let's come back out to our screen, and we can see now that these different avatars are coming in, of course, at different moments, but they're also behaving differently depending on the markers that have been added. So in this case, this particular avatar at the top is coming in, and then it's going online, right? Let's expand this out just a little bit. It's going online. But the second one doesn't have an online flag, and that's why it just is coming in. And of course, this one at the top has a hard pop, and that's popping there. Let me pull this back out so we can get a sense of the whole thing here. So let's go ahead and make this second avatar go online at this point. Well, all we need to do is select it, extract, click online, normal, and now that second avatar is going online. And of course, if we wanted that first one to go offline, then we would select that one, select online, and then just time reverse, and now that first one is now going offline. And there we go. We've done the same thing with the tabs. So if we scoot into this tab comp, we have some simple elements here with a button that it itself is time remapped. So we have this button that is a simple growing button with some text there. Pull back out. That button is here. It's coming in at that point. Of course, we can always come in here at any point and say, I want that to come out. So we'll say in and time reverse. And now that button will I got double buttons here, and now that button will close. Again, using as few animations as possible to generate as many behaviors as we can. So this animation has the tab coming in, a second button coming in. It's called a message, even though the word says live chat right now, but we're going to solve that with our master properties. And then we have a camera flip, and we have these buttons coming in as well. Now again, these circle buttons are all one comp with a label called in. I have 3 different icons here, and these are all controlled using a slider, so I can switch this to number 2, and I can switch this to number 3 to change them. And as soon as I go back to my tab, all 3 are changed. Again, we're going to use master properties to be able to use our one comp, but select different icons there. But here's the point, is that we're using marker remap to separate these behaviors in a way that we can call them at will. So coming back to our screen, we have this particular tab that now flips there and then flips backwards, right? Now this message comes up when this avatar starts texting. So we've called up the texting and we've added the loop flag to it. So by default, the texting, let me just clear this flag here, will just play once, just as our comp plays. But if we select the loop flag, it will keep looping until it encounters another marker, and now our message button pops up. So there you go. Using marker remap, again, is like having these master properties, but for behaviors. Now, how do we connect that with master properties to alter the content? Well, if you haven't explored master properties yet, definitely head on over to Media and watch this video why you should be using master properties in After Effects. He does an excellent job explaining the basic concepts behind it. But let's just go ahead and make that change real quick to our percentage label. It's a real easy one to do. So I'm going to go into my percentage comp, and the thing that we want to expose in a master property is the label and maybe even the ring color. So let's open up these 2 things, and we'll go here to ellipse, stroke, and make sure that color is available to us. So we'll go ahead and say Essential Graphics. We'll choose our percentage comp, and then we'll just drag in the properties that we want to have access to. So we'll drag in source text, and we'll call this percentage label, and we'll also drag in our color, and we'll call this ring color. Great. So now when we go back to our screen and we open our percentage properties, we now have a master property section. So we can come in here to the first one, right click, edit value, and now we can label these. Feedback. That is updated there. Master properties, jobs, and we'll call this one completed. Great. So now we're using master properties to adjust the content and marker remap to adjust the behavior. And this is pretty self-explanatory, but we can always use the ring color to change that if we wanted to. Let's do that one more time, but for our little buttons right here. So we'll go into our tab, circle button, and we want to expose some of these properties on our circle button. So we'll come here to circle button, and the things we want to expose are slider. So this will be called image icon, and the color of the button. Great. So now when we come back to our circle button pre-comps, we have a master property section. So we can come here, and this image icon will be number 1. Actually, let's swap that out. That one can stay as 3. This one can go to 2. This one can go to 1. And let's change those colors as well. Great. And now when we come back to our screen, now we have a flip with individual icons and colors, all from one comp. So I've done that completely on each one of these elements, and I'm going to show you what that looks like here in the version of this that's all connected. So we'll say don't save, come into touch events, screen, Now this is playing a little bit more slowly, and it's something I wanted to point out, not due to marker remap, but due to the master properties now going into each one of these cards and updating those comps uniquely for each layer. So master properties does slow the comp down just a little bit, but not in a way that's a deal breaker, certainly. So there you go. Now we've combined master properties to control the content and marker remap to adjust the behavior. And again, you can see here that I'm using that exact same button comp, right? But with just a different label and a different color. And here we have a control as well to be able to expose that message button when we want it. So similar master properties were set up for each one of these icons as well. So if we go into the avatar and we come down here into the avatar images, I have an image, right, for each frame. And I've exposed that into the master properties for those avatars. So we can say avatar image number, go to that particular one and just change this to number 7, and that updates there. So super powerful way to keep our comps simple, adjustable, and most importantly, art directable and flexible for quick client changes. All right, hope that was helpful. I'll be putting this project link in the description below so you can check it out for yourself and play around with it. And best wishes on your animations.